It's just embarrassing. It's a disaster. But then somehow I just didn't have the courage to do it, or I just didn't feel impressed to do it. I don't remember why I didn't. I probably just a glutton for punishment. I don't know. But anyway, I ended up going through the rest of the meeting. And that was it. It was done. We were done with it, and I was like, oh, it's done. It's done. So fast forward about 3 months, and I'm sitting in the Sonora Seventh Adventist Church here, and it's the Communion Day service, and so it's time for foot washing. And my wife was, Violetta, and the kids were gone, I don't know, maybe visiting her parents or something that particular week, because we always do the foot washing service together. She wasn't there. So I went looking for someone to wash feet with, and I saw an Arise student last year. And I went up to him, Josh Cunningham, and I said, oh, Josh, do you have, are you have a partner yet? He said, no, I'd be happy to. So all I knew about him at this point, he'd been here for about 4 weeks. We were 4 weeks into the Arise program, is he was from Australia, and he played the guitar. That's all I know. So we go and we wash feet together, and it was a powerful experience. And he says to me, I say to him, I said, so how did you hear about Arise? How did you hear about Arise? We're just making small talk. We've done washing feet. So how did you hear about Arise, man? We're so glad you're here. He says, I went to those meetings that you conducted in Sydney. And I was like, which meetings? Because I'd been there several times, and he said, oh, the ones you did at the Sydney Entertainment Center, the Turning Point? I said, really? He said, oh yeah, those meetings changed my life. I said, you mean the ones with the blinking lights and the tilted screen? He said, yeah. He said, he's in a band. He said, yeah, my band was playing in that venue, or just down the street from that venue, and I saw these signs. Those signs that I just hated, those big-headed, hi signs. And he said, I came. He said, I would miss sound check for my band because I would just come to your meetings and then I'd run out. I said, you never introduced yourself to me. He said, no, I never did. He said, but my life was so changed by those meetings. He said, those meetings were the turning point in my life. He said that I looked you up online and I saw that you ran a school, so I told my bandmates, because he's like he's a famous musician in Australia. I didn't know that. None of us knew that when he first came. You have to pull it out of him. He's not the kind of person that would advertise that. He says, I told my bandmates I'm taking 4 months off, and he says, I came to your school, and I want to be baptized. We baptized him. Now here's the amazing thing. No idea. I mean, to me, these meetings are a total disaster, a complete disaster, right? But God used them. God used this hee-hawing, cock-a-doodle-doing, donkey rooster of a man to stand up and bop, 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 Jesus. And they're just, people are like, that's so powerful. And then their lives are changed, right? But that happens more easily in a smaller group. In a smaller group. It was just us in that room. It was small, it was quaint, it was intimate. It was terrible, right? But the Spirit of God, it just goes to show it has nothing to do particularly with the charisma of the preacher or the power of the preacher. It's just the Spirit of God does something. Amen. The Spirit of God does something in the life of a person. So again, Ellen White says that Jesus had a faithful regard for the one soul audience. When you stand up, for example, to preach in here, when you preach to your 40 classmates or your 49 classmates, whatever it is, like that's powerful. That is oftentimes more powerful in terms of actual life-changing transformation and potency than preaching to 4,000, 5,000. Because Jesus understood, and we know today from just the basic sociology, that many people will make a decision that they would not otherwise make if lots of people around them are making decisions. But if one person, one-to-one, you sit down with somebody in their house, or 2 people, or 10 people you're preaching to in a room, someone makes a decision there, it's not because they're carried away. They're making a decision. So sometimes we have to almost reverse the way that we think about ministerial success. And Jesus did this all the time. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Take from him that has nothing and give to him that has lots. I mean, Jesus is constantly saying these seemingly backward things. And here's another good example. We would think that preaching to thousands and tens of thousands would be the most potent, effectual way of bringing about conversion in the lives of people. And I wouldn't deny that it can be. But preaching to 10, preaching to 2, preaching to 20, preaching to a small church can be just as effective because people are making their own decisions. People are making their own decisions. They're not being carried away with what others are saying and doing around them. Amen? So sometimes we have to rethink about what success is, and we have to rethink about what effectiveness is. Okay? And Jesus, of course, is our model for that. Jesus was often trying to distance himself from the crowds. He just wanted to spend time with the 12. Right? He's trying to surround himself with the 12. It's not that he was against others. Not at all, of course not. But he knew that if he had really invested in the 12, that this would be a better way of reaching the world than just having crowds and crowds and crowds and crowds follow him. Because, hey, those sandwiches you made yesterday, Jesus, were really good. Right? We together, everyone? Okay, so let's take a break, and we'll come back, and we will talk about our next level in our preaching class. So let's take a 10-minute break.